Whoever you are, wherever you are, hope you are blessed and doing safe. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings, family. Of course, I'm tuning in. You see me without the glasses off today. But if you're looking for some opportunities, particular advertisement opportunities, then look no further at the link at the bottom to my email address. You can hit me up for advertisement opportunities. We are supporting and promoting your businesses here on this channel. You can also, if you would like to donate and subscribe to our Patreon, a link is at the bottom as well. So you have multiple ways in which you can advertise with the platform by emailing me when we go on do our live stream. You also have access to premium content, those that want to see premium content that you will not find here on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, as I am suspended probably by now. You guys can check out the Patreon at link at the bottom. But advertisement opportunities, definitely email me, gavin.grich1@gmail.com for rates. And for the Patreon, it is the same as the YouTube channel. It is channel gboot2786. All right, I'll holla. Peace.
Now Vince McMahon is facing new allegations of sexual assault and trafficking.
Vince has been a guy who's been mired in controversy for much, like I say, for on and off for the last 35 years. But this is, by far the worst.
The accusations by former employee Janelle Grant against McMahon and another former WWE executive are detailed and explicit. Some so graphic we've chosen not to share them. Among those we can, McMahon began sharing sexually explicit photographs and videos of Ms. Grant, including pornographic content he recorded with other men. And McMahon recruited individuals to have sexual relations with Ms. Grant. A spokesperson for McMahon told U.S. news outlets the lawsuit is replete with lies, obscene made-up instances that never occurred, and a vindictive distortion of the truth. He will vigorously defend himself. Dave Meltzer has been covering wrestling for 52 years.
I've said before, I don't think he can survive this, and been wrong. But this one, I don't think he can survive this because it's too much on the heels of everything else that's come out.
That everything else involves multiple allegations of sexual assault and harassment. In 2022, it was revealed McMahon had settled claims between 2006 and 2022 for $15 million. Soon after, he voluntarily stepped down as WWE CEO, then retired at 77 years old, citing his age. 6 months later, he was back, eventually selling the WWE to TKO Group, and later was named to the company's board. Tuesday, TKO signed a massive deal with Netflix. The multi-billion-dollar agreement makes the streaming giant the home of WWE Raw, the company's flagship show. Grant's lawyers state she hopes this lawsuit will prevent further women from being victimized. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Montreal.
All right. So that, fam, what's up, everybody? If you've been living under a rock, you all know what the big news is, especially in the entertainment world, sports entertainment, especially if you're a big wrestling fan. What's happened in the last 48 hours? Vince McMahon, the man who brought wrestling to the mainstream, was forced to step down as CEO of the WWE, or as TKO, or as it's called now, TKO, due to allegations of sexual harassment and assault in a lawsuit that was filed in a federal court in Connecticut, where WWE is headquartered. According to the lawsuit, Janelle Grant, who claims she's a former employee, is suing Vince McMahon, John Laurinaitis, who's also an executive and WWE, and other individuals for these allegations, including what they say is sex trafficking as well. The allegations are very graphic if you look at the lawsuit, which I will go over later. But greetings, everyone. I am the one and only G Rich 2786. Thank you for whoever you are, wherever you are. I hope you are blessed and doing safe. We are live. We are live. And I'm coming at you with 5. I'm enjoying the season. It's it's gotten so cold right now. I hope you all are doing well, whatever you're up to. We're starting a little early. I know this show is scheduled for 5:45, but I started to get in this right now. Wish I had done this show earlier because we have the AFC NFC Championship game that's going on. Spoiler alert, if you're following football or not, the AFC Championship game is over. Kansas City has beaten the Baltimore Ravens 17-10. Now, when you say Emperor, what are we distracted from? We're really being distracted from. I don't know. And I'm just talking about this incident because I'm a big wrestling fan. Ever since I was a kid. Now I don't watch it as much as I used to. In part because I guess you could say the magic is over with. Everybody knows the secrets of the WWF, the WCW. When they had the Monday Night Wars was when I was really into wrestling, when they would have uh Monday Night Raw versus Monday Nitro, WCW. When they had the Saturday Night Main Event, Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man Randy Savage, the Legion of Doom, Bret Hitman Hart, those guys. And of course, WCW had Goldberg, Lex Luger, the NWO. That was when the Outsiders. That was when wrestling was wrestling. Now, WWE did get it, and you're correct, DeAndre. There is an exclusive Netflix streaming deal that was just signed this week before this lawsuit came out. Now, I have to say, I have always heard there have always been stories with Vince McMahon and WWE, in fairness, that has been out to the public years ago. Uh, if anybody remembers this woman, I'm going to show you Sable. Who remembers her? Now, Sable was one of the, I guess, the WWE divas back in, I want to say, mid late 90s. And she was the one that got the biggest push, especially when there was Raw, when they actually started to do the Attitude Era. They really pushed the envelopes. They did, wrestling used to be a superhero type thing, like they had Hulk Hogan. And then when they did the Attitude Era, that's when they had The Rock, in particular, spearheaded by Stone Cold Steve Austin, Degeneration X, when they would do sexually explicit acts, skits, and stuff like that. For God's sakes, they had an episode where a woman, I think it was Mae Young, who gave birth to a hand with Mark Henry back in the 90s. I don't know how they thought of that shit and what that had to do with WWE, but they made those type of storylines. But Sable was one of the divas that they pushed, and back in the 90s, she actually filed a $110 million lawsuit against the WWE, stating she had been subject to sexual harassment by Vince McMahon. She says she filed a lawsuit against the company citing allegations of sexual harassment and unsafe work conditions. She claimed to have filed the lawsuit after refusing to go topless. During the lawsuit, Vince McMahon countersued her over control of the stage name Sable. She later reduced the amount that she was seeking, and they eventually settled out of court in August of 99. Sable used her real name for appearances in the September 99 issue of Playboy, and she was the first woman in history to be given 2 Playboy covers in the same year. Very interesting, that thing with Playboy and with Vince McMahon, because now we know McMahon, I'm sorry, not McMahon, but we know, oh boy, Hugh Hefner, I was talking about his wife, who was making allegations against him. And now we got this thing with Vince. So, but then she settled and then she came back to the WWE in 2003. And yeah, during that era, which was still an attitude era, she was still doing she actually did a skit with Vince, I think pretending to be his mistress, where she was Vince McMahon's mistress. She also, believe it or not, married Brock Lesnar. And Brock Lesnar is the biggest superstar, one of, in the WWE. There have also been allegations against Jimmy Snuka, supposedly, where he allegedly beat his girlfriend up to death so bad, beat her up so bad that he killed her, Nancy Argentino. That was back in 1983, and supposedly the WWE helped cover that up. Supposedly, I don't know for sure. I don't say anything is false. I've heard these rumors. Uh, they do say that they had a lawsuit against Snuka that was filed in the 80s, but he never paid. Uh, there's also been allegations. How many of you remember Pat Patterson? Pat Patterson, was one of the Stooges back in the 90s when they had the Raw era under Vince McMahon, when he took that persona of Mr. McMahon, his alter ego in wrestling. Pat Patterson had been accused of sexual assault of minors, of ring boys, him and another guy, Terry Garvin. Now, Pat Patterson is openly gay, and he was the first Intercontinental Champion. Now, I point and bring all of this out, and he actually had to step down from the company. I point all of this out. Yeah, you can read all of that here because there have always been accusations against the WWE. So now that we have that, and Vince has been accused of sexual harassment. Remember, in 2022, he stepped down. So was supposedly stepping down because they had found from 2006 until 2022, supposedly McMahon had settled upwards, and you saw in that video, nearly $50 million. And had so many non-disclosure agreements. Yeah, there have always been allegations against him. Of course, some of them, they waited way after the events to file a lawsuit against McMahon if these things did happen. They happened in 2022. He stepped down, but then he came back. So he stepped down as CEO in June of 2022, continued to oversee content development, then announced his retirement in July of 2022, only to return back. And this WWE's parent company is TKO, which I believe is run by Ari Emanuel. So he founded this company with Ari Emanuel and Vince McMahon. And Vince McMahon and Ari Emanuel, we know who he is. Brother of Rahm Emanuel. Ari Emanuel, y'all know, is the basis for the TV show Entourage, because he's a very powerful man in the entertainment industry. He is an agent. And his company owns, you look right here, UFC and WWE. But I'm going to get to the lawsuit in a second. But this is the type of thing that happens. Now, because of the allegations, the lawsuit that came out that was filed against Vince McMahon by Janelle Grant this past week, Slim Jim actually pulled out of the Royal Rumble. A lot of people have been speaking out against Vince, including some former employees, one of whom was Lance Storm. And Lance Storm basically let Vince have it. So I want y'all to listen to this. This is what this was cool. Well, I don't know if I'm gonna get a copyright strike, but maybe I won't play that. But basically, he essentially said that if any part of the allegation is true, Vince should actually be in jail. I'm paraphrasing. He needs to go away. Triple H, who is Vince McMahon's son-in-law, he responded that he didn't even read the lawsuit.
Like, this is absolutely disgustingly horrible, and he needs to be gone and done. And I hope there's criminal charges brought if any of this is even remotely true, which, with there being so many NDAs and a long list of things, it's like I can't fathom how it isn't.
So, all the same week, Netflix signs this huge deal with the WWE. Now, here's the thing. I don't know, because I wasn't there, whether these allegations are true or not. I'm a person that believes in the presumption of innocence. Anybody and everybody is presumed innocent until proven guilty. Doesn't matter how many accusations they have. They can have 100. They can have one. If there's nothing supported by a probable cause affidavit, if there's no evidence that corroborates that, depending on what the crimes are, they're still innocent until proven guilty. When there's a jury that reaches a guilty verdict, and even after that, when they have to exhaust the appeals process. Now, the question we have to say I put up was, will Vince McMahon get the Diddy treatment? Now, by that I mean, are we prepared, or are we going to see this whitewashing of Vince McMahon? I shouldn't even say whitewashing, excuse me. Are we going to see the blackballing? That's the better word, against Vince McMahon, like we've seen with Diddy. Remember, Diddy had to step down. Diddy, when Cassie filed her lawsuit against Diddy and his company. You know, here with Vince McMahon, we don't have, and we don't know if there's any settlements that were going to be coming in, but I'm going to give you some backgrounds about the case per what I've been reading. And the question is that are we going to see the McMahon family, the name taken down, and they're going to try and remove Vince's star from the Walk of Fame? Is he no longer going to be? Now, this is a multi-billionaire we're talking about here. He's not losing. He's done pretty well for himself, so he's not going to be losing any sleep, if anything, because Vince McMahon, as a multi-billionaire, by his own admission, he only gets 4 hours of sleep. Now, when you read this article, Janelle Grant, and you're going to see her picture in a second. According to this article from the Daily Mail, Grant had agreed to a $3 million settlement in exchange for signing a non-disclosure agreement in 2022. And she filed this new lawsuit because she cites in part, quote, McMahon stopped making payments after the initial $1 million installment. And now she seeks to void that agreement. Furthermore, Grant claims that she suffered bruising and bleeding. Basically, Stan McMahon abused her with toys and so forth that he supposedly even named after his wrestlers. Now, you may be saying, well, Vince McMahon is a married man. Yes, he is. And of course, we know with married men, the power and stuff that they influence that they have, women will come and flock to them. And McMahon, apparently, according to the lawsuit, is separated from his wife, Linda, and that they're only married by name, which is not a surprise. That typically happens sometimes, especially if they've been together for a long time, because Vince and his wife actually have been together since the 60s. Now, that is a picture of Janelle Grant, and she's suing the WWE exec, Vince. Now, the lawsuit was filed in the Eastern District. Now, the most important thing when you get these lawsuits, and I'm going to post the article in the comment box so you all can look at it. The most important thing, ladies and gentlemen, when you look at these lawsuits is not to read the articles, although the articles do provide you, I guess, some specific information, but you got to read the lawsuits and you got to read them very carefully in their entirety, because a lawsuit is going to tell you exactly what the allegations are. Now, this is a pretty long, I want to say, document that I have been reading before I came in here against this lawsuit against Vince McMahon. And Vince McMahon is not the only person that sued John Laurinaitis, who is an executive and is also a co-defendant. Laurinaitis actually is the brother of Animal from the Legion of Doom. That is John Laurinaitis. That's his picture there. Now, keep in mind also, The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, just joined the board of directors at TKO. So you've had all of this stuff going on. Triple H now has taken over as the chief content officer for the WWE, replacing McMahon. This all comes to the fact that they have found, the WWE board learned of McMahon's relationship with Grant from an anonymous tip in 2022 and launched an internal investigation, which subsequently uncovered $14.6 million in other alleged payments by the executive to various women. So there has always been, apparently within the WWE company, McMahon basically trying to supposedly do what he wants with women and then pays them off to keep them quiet. That is not uncommon from what I've heard. According to the lawsuit, the two met in March of 2019 when Ms. Grant was dealing with profound grief and struggling financially after devoting years to round-the-clock caregiving. Her parents passed away. On top of that, she was unemployed and her family home was lost in her parents' bankruptcy. So I want you to understand this. Now, that has absolutely nothing to do with an allegation. Typically, I've never seen lawsuits start off like that. But just like with Cassie, remember how Cassie was this young girl, impressionable girl in the lawsuit who had just signed with Bad Boy, and Diddy was the one who took care of. You're seeing the same thing here with this. The lawyer for Grant, Miss Grant, and let's look at his name right quick. It's going to be on the filing. I'm going to come back to reading this, but the lawyer for Grant is Ben Daniels. These are all the law firms that are representing her. And this is supposedly the exhibit. But what the lawyer Daniels is doing, Mr. Daniels is doing, is he's trying to humanize his client as a damsel in distress, a poor you who was in a turbulent time and basically got taken advantage of by this tyrant of Vince McMahon. Now, what she alleges in this lawsuit is that Laurinaitis, now I've heard not very good things about John Laurinaitis, but I've never heard allegations of abuse, if you know what I mean. But I want to go back when I read this article, when I read the lawsuit. So you all heard, and I'm going to show you the allegations here. Hold on, let's just rewind. So Miss Grant apparently lived in the same apartment building as Vince McMahon. And they say she dedicated herself to finding gainful employment. Neighbors in her building provided career advice and sought her assistance with personal events. And Ms. Grant used these non-paying roles and volunteer work in the community initiatives to build her resume. Okay. The resident manager wanted to help and messaged McMahon to ask whether he would talk to her, sharing that Ms. Grant had been through hardship and would do great things if given a fresh start. McMahon enthusiastically responded, "Hell yes!" So he befriends Miss Grant, giving her hopes of a new life with promises. Here's the thing, of promises of a yet to be determined role at WWE, and showering her with attention and assurances, along with gifts like a VIP experience at WrestleMania. But what seemed like a dream in the spring of 2019 quickly became a nightmare. As McMahon dangled career-making and life-changing promise. Now, as you see, we're talking about Cassie. It sounds very similar. During several meetings that were ostensibly about a potential job at WWE, he greeted her in his underwear, touched her repeatedly, and asked for hugs, and spent hours sharing intimate details about his personal life. McMahon wanted Miss Grant to keep their, quote, closeness secret. Now, stop right here for a second. So, she's stating in her lawsuit that he dangled promises of a career in front of her face. All the while, he's wearing boxer briefs. She's going in his closet. She went into his home, and you're gonna hear about that later. He's asking for hugs and stuff. And he tells her to keep their closeness a secret. Now, it is a known fact that Vince McMahon is married. It's public knowledge. You have to ask, and everybody may think, "Oh, you're blaming the victim." No, this is called evidence. This is called cross-examination. If you got on a witness stand, well, ma'am, did you know Vince McMahon was married? Did you know that he was he's living by himself? He's a 70-something-year-old man. You're a young woman. He's inviting you over to his home. You see him in his underwear or anything. You got to ask these questions. He tells you to keep your relationship a secret. Well, did you ever wonder, are you that? See, I don't believe women are that naive, can be that naive. That if some married man wants to keep your relationship or any arrangement you have as a, quote, secret, and he's offering you a job, he wants something a little bit more than your than your resume. He's not looking to give you an employment opportunity. He's looking to give himself an opportunity. So he pushed for a physical. If you read allegation number 9, McMahon pushed Miss Grant for a physical relationship in return for long promised employment at WWE. She felt trapped in an impossible situation, submitting to McMahon's sexual demands or facing ruin. Now, Miss Grant feared that she had everything to lose and face negative consequences no matter what happened. So she's basically saying, I got pressured into giving head to Vince McMahon, into submitting to his sexual advances, but I'm not an employee. She's not employed just yet. So what we have here, guys, is an example of the casting couch. These allegations here are an example of a casting couch. You pay for play. Or should I say play for pay? She gets into a relationship with the man. He creates a, quote, administrative coordinator position for her, and she begins work in June of 2019. Ms. Grant remained in that role with the exception of a temporary relocation to the XFL until McMahon verbally directed her to transfer to the Talent Relations Department, reporting to defendant John Laurinaitis on March 9, 2021. During a conversation, McMahon explained that her presence in the legal department was effectively delaying efforts to hire general counsel for the company, new general counsel. McMahon and Laurinaitis informed Ms. Grant that she would be promoted to vice president of operations in the talent relations department, providing her with an organizational chart reflecting this decision. Shortly thereafter, they informed her that they needed her to begin at a lower level as a director, but promised her promotion to vice president after a 12-month period. Now, this is interesting. She says, despite Ms. Grant's expressions of unhappiness and attempts to end the sexual relationship, and while she came to understand that McMahon expected the physical relationship to continue as part of her employment, she had no idea how sordid it would become, nor how the psychological torture and physical violence would leave her feeling helpless, isolated, and trapped. Now, what they allege further in here, of course, is very graphic. So I can't even really say, people don't want to say it, obviously, because they don't want to get censored or anything like that. But use your what they allege, including trafficking, the stuff that they're saying. It is disgusting. It is graphic. I can't deny that. Of course, if any man abuses, and that's the word is abuse, you do something without consent, that is against the law. And yes, there should be punishment if that did happen. But if somebody, and young ladies, this is for you all out there, is basically telling you or giving you a chance at an opportunity, and you would have to give some to get it, meaning demean yourself, something you don't want to do, I got to say, ladies, please walk away. And that's not just the ladies, that's the men too, because the casting couch applies to men as well. And that's what Vince McMahon supposedly looks like he was doing. Now, even as an employee, there can be a problem, and I'm telling you from a civil standpoint, where if someone, even if you are, especially in a relationship with someone, let's say you're in a relationship with somebody you work with, you know, you also have to be careful with that, because there in the workplace, there are, and it's federal law, laws against sexual discrimination, laws that prevent sexual harassment, and policies that are supposed to be put in place. And supposedly, she's stating that McMahon was sending explicit pictures and photos with other men in and out of the company, tech teams, and former UFC championships. She's also saying she was ordered to keep the relationship a secret. Now, she was an entry-level coordinator in the legal department. McMahon recruited individuals supposedly to sleep with her. And supposedly, from reading this, John Laurinaitis was a part of it. Now, again, I always tell y'all to look at the parties that are being sued. Vince McMahon is being sued, as is John Laurinaitis. But World Wrestling Entertainment is named at the top of the list as the first defendant. That is because this triggers, and we talked about this like with Diddy, there is liability insurance that gets triggered when these corporations and companies get sued. WWE's network, their estimated net worth revenue as of 2022 is $1.3 billion, with over 800 employees as of 2023. The net income is $195.6 million in 2022. The assets are $1.35 billion. The operating income is $283 million. So you're talking about, let's just call it, and they're on the stock market. This is a $1 billion company. So when they have allegations like this, like with Diddy, you're talking about billions of dollars at stake. And of course, a lawsuit like this, which is alleging sex trafficking, she supposedly got $3 million to keep her mouth shut when McMahon fired her in 2022. She's gonna get more if possibly if there's a settlement, which they likely will, just to keep this from, although the damage has technically been done, but just to keep it from going further in a trial and saving embarrassment for the company, for McMahon, for Laurinaitis. Yes. Now I got to ask though, and we always ask this: is the question is, where is the account when we talk of accountability? Where are all the police records? I got to ask that, and that's not. Again, if someone does something to you, and a lot of people take it as being hated, no, it's not being hated. It's not victim shaming. It's a legit question. It's a legit question you have to ask. You have to ask these questions. And it go further in here when you read this, especially how, I mean, the allegations go in details. Their meetings, how they had a 2-hour meeting for an entry level position, how McMahon is a billionaire CEO. They're setting this star up. Now they named other parties of the WWE, including the corporate office number 2, WWE corporate office number 1, 3, and 4. They also name a WWE superstars. Um, they don't name the names of those individuals. And supposedly, and you just read this in detail. So she was not even an employee when they met. And McMahon, supposedly, they had dinner at his home, at his dining table. He looked at Miss Grant's resume and complimented her on her communication skills and common sense. He shared stories about his marriage, how Linda was his ex, and how they're long gone, his traumatic childhood. And he said, I didn't want to just give her a job, but he wanted to give her a life and that he would find a place for her at the WWE. And then she says that when this happened, he began to, quote, groom her. Now, they don't say how old Janelle Grant is in this, but I'm assuming Janelle Grant had to have been an adult when this happened. Clearly, she's over 18. Now, she claimed in June 2021 is when Laurinaitis and McMahon were had I can't say, but assaulted her. Let's just put it that way. They committed a crime, supposedly committed a crime on her. And in June of 2022, she was set to be released because Linda McMahon supposedly found out about this relationship between Vince and Miss Grant. That's why Vince stepped down. That's why she was let go, apparently. Now, This is around the same time, the timelines to Vince McMahon did step down in June of 2022. They announced a special committee of its board of directors was investigating any alleged misconduct and appointing Stephanie McMahon as interim CEO and interim chairwoman. In this capacity, Miss McMahon publicly affirmed her commitment to do everything in her power to help the special committee complete its work and to implement its findings. She also declared the importance of a safe and collaborative workplace. The lawyer here says the investigation was a sham. Now, you know, Stephanie McMahon is the wife of Triple H, Paul Leverquest, this is his real name, and the daughter of Vince McMahon. They allege that in SEC filings, the company tried to divert attention away from McMahon's abuse of women by focusing on the technical issue of how much hush money was accounted for. In the words of the company, the issue was immaterial, accounting errors relating to certain payments that McMahon agreed to make during the period from 2006 to 2022. A lot of the stuff I've read, even too, she's accusing Vince of doing a threesome. I've read it. It's nasty shit, literally, and that's literally what Vince supposedly did with her, to her. I talk about this all the time, though, fam. Y'all. I put the link in the chat so y'all could read it. Yeah, but I've heard stuff about John Laurinaitis for a long time. Y'all can read. It's best when you get these lawsuits, guys. The best source of information. I say again, I posted the link so y'all could even look at it. You can download it. Is to read the document in and of itself and how it's phrased. So, several takeaways you can read from this is that number one, this lawyer actually does a good job of trying to make his client look like a poor, helpless victim. I can see that. Talking about her history from the beginning and what she was going through as this girl who took care of her parents who passed away, and she lost everything and was down and out on her last leg, and she relied on this 77-year-old billionaire to help her out, who said he was going to help her, and he took advantage of her. How he said she was he had a childlike innocence, she's goodness, vivaciousness, and ability to be vulnerable. And he says all these things made her an easy target. He called her into his master walk-in closet one night at his condo, and she turned and saw that he was wearing his briefs. Shocked, Miss Grant turned around and apologized. McMahon laughed and asked her to turn around, and he handed her a shirt and asked her for help with buttons. Things like this. So we learned that the lawyer is very detailed. I can say from looking at the document. Also, some people will do anything. Another thing we can take away still, a lot of people will do and I mean anything, for fame and fortune. They do things that they're uncomfortable with. And now some people want to, I'm not saying, I'm just talking in general, but some people do stuff they're not comfortable with just so that they can actually get ahead. And sometimes when it doesn't work out that way, they want to cry foul. You cannot do things like that because life doesn't work that way. Now, of course, never ever do we want anybody or do I want anyone to be assaulted or any way. And if that is true, and I'm talking about actual the illegality parts that she's alleged. I'm not the beginning stuff where he wanted to keep the relationship a secret or things like that. That's common sense that any woman should figure out that this guy, as I stated earlier, wants something. Now, of course, anything that happens in the workplace, any type of uh, quote unquote sex trafficking or any abuse of any kind is a no no, even if they are in a relationship, because you can't blame, you can't bring anything like that in that type of in a workplace. As a business person, you are responsible for your employees and having a safe environment. And if McMahon did anything like that, he deserves not only to resign, but obviously he could have had charges filed against him, as well as Mr. Laurinaitis, if that is true. But as of right now, I don't even know if she did. And I'm just reading press charges against him. She did say that on one occasion, and I'm just looking at this. He made advances. She made advances and she rejected them. Even the point where he wanted to hug her. She wanted to hold her. Out of fear for her employment and his early implied threats about his legal team dealing with problems, Ms. Grant lay down in bed next to McMahon and kept her hands clasped and ankles crossed as she acquiesced in saying that he can only hold her, but nothing more. So I'm just reading this. She's not been hired. So all of this stuff happened when she hadn't been formally hired, but looked like to be someone in training. So I'm just saying this, sisters, ladies, any man that make advances to you, especially beforehand, and I'm reading from these allegations, there's not enough money in the world to make you do something that would demean yourself. I said the same, and I did the same thing to men too. Remember when Terry Crews was at that party and had his nuts grabbed by that Hollywood producer, and he didn't beat up on the man because I was scared of what I would do and what would happen if I could do this and I didn't do this. There's no money in the world, no job in the world worth the cost of your self-respect, your humanity. Fame and fortune doesn't equal to right and wrong. There are other jobs you can have. There are other jobs you can get. But for us, and I mentioned, do I think he's going to get the Diddy treatment? Vince is not going to get the Diddy treatment. I'm not reading through the whole thing because it's a long. It's a long petition, but I charge everyone to read it for themselves and come to your own conclusions what you thought or think of this lawsuit. I don't believe Vince McMahon is going to lose billions of dollars. I don't think he's going to have uh, criminal charges that I know of. I would be shocked if that happened just based off the fact that he's been doing this for a long time and at his age, being friends with, and of course, being friends with Donald Trump. What would happen to him? But I don't see that happening. Now, his not going to be the same for him, obviously, since this is fresh. You have the net, and I find it very interesting too. The lawsuit was filed right around the time when the Netflix deal happened. I'm sure they think that was strategic on the part of the lawyer too, because now that Netflix is tied in with it, you have all of these corporate sponsors who are paying attention to this. How's that going to affect their deal? Because now more money is being poured into that. So, again, kudos to the lawyer on that. I think he was smart in doing this, questioning the timing and so forth on it. I'm not, of course, a Vince McMahon supporter, but at the same time, I just don't know all of the facts. I've heard this stuff about Vince. You'd be shocked, guys. I mean, the stuff we hear about, especially everybody out here who is a wrestling fan. Let me play some music, make this sound better. The wrestling, our wrestling heroes that we grew up with, the stories I've heard about them. You know, that old saying, you never want to meet your heroes. It will be evident because, especially as a black person, when you hear about Ric Flair, the stuff I heard about Ric Flair being racist. Teddy Long told a story about how Ric Flair called him the N-word, say, you want to still work here? Nigga, or stuff like that. How we've heard, I mean, look, WWE used to do those storylines. They had Roddy Piper hit Jimmy Snuka with a coconut. They had Roddy Piper going in on that Tony Atlas and the Soul Patrol, Rocky Maivia, Rocky Johnson, The Rock's father. They had stuff with Jesse Ventura calling Tito Santana's move the flying burrito. They always did stuff, racist stuff. That's always been like that. Yeah, Junkyard Dog used to go through stuff like that. When he was with, I think not NWA, but he was Mid-South Wrestling. Supposedly, the owner and president, when he was contemplating leaving WWF, Dog was in the bathroom, and they said, you know, we're gonna have a hard time keeping Sylvester. That was his name here. That was his real name, and the owner said, "Oh, we ain't gonna let that N-word leave here, or something. That nigga leave, something along those lines." And Dog heard that. That's when and supposedly that's how he left the WWF. They've always been doing stuff. So Vince McMahon, guys, y'all know McMahon is responsible for making wrestling what it is today, but his legacy is tainted. Whenever a white person's legacy is tainted, they're allowed to leave at least with their freedom before, several years down the line after they pass, is when they start throwing dirt on them. Like they did with Hugh Hefner, like they're doing with Hugh Hefner. Crystal Hefner is talking about she's actually trying to pawn her ring. So they've always had and done stuff after the effect. After they die, black people get dragged while they're alive. It happens now. You lose everything now. Immediately. The impact is felt immediately. So Vince McMahon, now I gotta turn the music off because it's distracting me, is not gonna get the Diddy treatment. You know, let's look at something. Diddy has lost, was going through that deal with Ciroc. He's lost that. Diddy has also he's been banned from the Grammys. You know, they actually disinvited him from the Grammys. This is a bunch of stuff that's happened. Now, he's never been convicted of anything. But just the appearance of impropriety to white America and what they're doing, that is why they banned and called for his ban for him not to be at the Grammys. And he's been disinvited. He's had to step down from Revolt. He's had his employees actually threaten to quit over just an allegation. Hasn't been proven. Again, we don't know. I'm a person, if I don't know, I'm not going to go and just throw someone under the bus, say they did it. Now, where there's smoke, there's fire. But the question is, how did the fire start and who did it? First off. What's up, B1? What's up, B1 Night Rider? Kid Gravity, DeAndre Mosley. I haven't said good evening to all of y'all. I'm sorry about that. All my people in the chat. They lived up to the WrestleMania mentality. Let's have a Royal Rumble in my bed. Yeah. McMahon, yeah. So I think it's interesting what's going to happen to Vince. Do y'all think Vince is going to be so? I don't. So no, Vince is not going to get the Diddy treatment. I don't think he's going to obviously go to jail. I don't think. I'd certainly think and anticipate a lawsuit, especially with these accusations, is going to be settled by the insurance companies for WWE. Henceforth, why they filed it by sexual. Yeah, y'all should just read the allegations in the lawsuit. I didn't want to read all through it because then, although YouTube already has me demonetized and shadow banned, they really wouldn't monetize this video if it ever happened. You said he's going on trial. The government's still mad. No, I don't think he's going. He's not going on trial. There hasn't been there's not been as of yet any criminal charges that have been filed against him. There has been nothing filed against him. Of course, we know he ain't gonna be treated like Bill Cosby. That's not happening. They're not gonna have the New York lawyers. If you've been sexually assaulted by Vince McMahon, dials, call us at 1-888. Help me. Help me. No, that's not gonna help him. That's not gonna happen. 46 help me. Now 1-888-4 help me. No, I don't see. No, that's not gonna happen. The steroid scandal that happened, trafficking allegation. But this is the thing, Kid Gravity. This is a lawsuit. It's a lawsuit. It is not. She didn't file, according to so far from what I've seen in articles or reading this. She didn't go to the police again when this happened. She's filed a lawsuit because she didn't get the other $2 million from the non-disclosure agreement. He stopped payment. He stopped payment on the rest of the non-disclosure settlements. Now that's telling that he has, of course, all of these NDAs, and I'm glad you brought that up, DeAndre. All of these Kid Gravity and DeAndre brought this up. All of these NDAs with these various women that he has signed and money he has paid out, that shows that there is something possibly there. But he didn't sign anything. And you have to ask the question, why? These NDAs, agreements that he has with all of these women and the money that's paid out and the accounting is another issue. Now, there may be something with that on a federal level if he was hiding payments and how he get those, how those were accounted for, because then, could there be an issue on a federal level with like income tax evasion or, withholding or falsifying, tax records or anything like that? That would be that could be problematic for him. That part I would believe. But no, Vince McMahon is not going to, I don't see Vince McMahon being Epstein. I remember, didn't Linda McMahon, I think she was appointed, she was in Trump's cabinet. Wasn't she in Donald? Yeah, she was in Donald Trump's cabinet years ago. I can't remember what her role was. Sex trafficking. If they look into it, those trafficking allegations are serious. Yeah, I agree. But I think they're going to be even more pissed off. Any money that was is the accounting and tax records that might have been falsified. Might. I don't know for a fact. I say may have been. So yeah, she served in the Small Business Administration as an administrator. That's correct. So yeah. But anyway, guys, please look, do yourself a favor, read the actual lawsuit and the allegation that they have in it. Um, I will be back Tuesday and Thursday. Of course, we'll have Sean James. We had an excellent broadcast. I gotta hear and see if Sean's gonna do a video on this because Sean, is into WWE and wrestling. So I wonder what his thoughts are on it. But look, you all see the ticker at the bottom. The channel is not monetized. If you love to support this channel, if you love me for my time, please pay for my time. Cash App, PayPal, Zelle, Venmo at the bottom. If you would like to donate. Looks like, and I have the game on. The Lions are beating the 49ers 21-7. Lions are playing to win. I can't say the same about Baltimore. So we'll see what happens. There's going to be two home teams that are going to lose in the championship game. But Monday is here, and we got to go back to work, unfortunately. Ugh. All right, family. Y'all be safe and be blessed. I'm going to wrap this up. All right. Drop something in the Cash App. Gavin Richard Esquire, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to you, DeAndre. I hadn't seen you in a while. You still got that kid and play haircut. One who cares. Raphael. Shout out to y'all, all right? Bisexual McMahon. So this is how he came up with the Royal Rumble. All them NDAs. He's throwing all of them out. Yeah, man. Y'all be safe and be blessed, all right, family? I'll holla. Peace.